Episode 337.
Hey, do it now!
Chen Guo suddenly nudged Ye Shu.
You're still a full body's length short on the right.
No way.
Ye Shu's mouse hovered over and clicked on the Christmas thief, displaying its coordinates and position grid. Then, clicking on the resident on the right naturally displayed that resident's coordinates and grid position. And since these two characters aren't aligned on the same horizontal or vertical axis, you can't just glance and tell their distance. You actually have to use the Pythagorean theorem to calculate it. That's why the average player struggles to gauge this distance. That's a lot of steps, and the Pythagorean theorem isn't something you can just do in your head most of the time. In the heat of battle, who has time to do the math? Even in this relatively unhurried moment, by the time Chen Guo had tapped the numbers into her calculator and realized the distance was indeed still off by one body length, that resident was long gone from his original spot. Yet Ye Shu remained steady, waiting for his opening.
Hey, dragging this out is pointless. You might as well go up there and finish them all off. You've got the skill for it. Actually,
Easy now.
Ye Shu remained unmoved, supremely confident that his chance would come.
let's see how long you can wait.
Just as Chen Guo was speaking, the two residents flanking the Christmas head on the screen simultaneously took a step to either side. At that very moment, Lord Grimm raised his weapon, a muzzle flash, and a shot was already on its way. The bullet was blindingly fast. Chen Guo couldn't hear the in-game sound effects, but she saw the shot strike the Christmas elf square in the forehead, a spray of crimson blossoming from the impact. The Christmas elf leaped up and charged straight at Lord Grimm. The two residents on either side had already turned and started to slip back, but the attack was over. That shot had landed outside their aggro range. So they turned back, and within their aggro range, they saw the Christmas elf charging at Lord Grimm, but this was something they would ignore. He seized that fleeting instant of opportunity. You'd need a solid grasp of distance calculation and bullet velocity to pull that off. Could I have done that? Even though they knew Ye Shu was no ordinary expert, witnessing a scene like this would make anyone put themselves in his shoes and measure their own abilities. Chen Guo did just that, and the result was utterly demoralizing. As for how Ye Shu would take down this Christmas thief, she didn't want to watch. Trying to follow the action directly from his screen, Chen Guo simply couldn't make heads or tails of it. Chen Guo had long been aware of this fact. Chen Guo deliberately avoided looking at Ye Shu. She turned her head and casually glanced over at Tang Rou instead. But that single glance left her utterly dumbstruck, and she couldn't help but whip her head right back to Ye Shu. Their approaches couldn't have been more different. Ye Shu was being so meticulous, he didn't even want to touch a single extra resident of Sin City. As for Tang Rou, well, she was having a grand old time. Soft Mist was in a full-on sprint. In the brief moments she glanced back, Chen Guo caught sight of the pursuing residents. There had to be at least a dozen of them. Tang Rou was making a truly spectacular mess, and from the looks of it, she was only going to make it bigger. In his panicked headlong flight, he inadvertently strayed into another resident's aggro range. Immediately, more pursuers from Tianxin were on his heels. Tang Rou wasn't so bold as to be fearless. He was utterly helpless to have attracted so much trouble. It's simply because the residents of Sin City have a massive aggro range and are incredibly aggressive. For leveling, these traits aren't too much of a hassle. In fact, they can be pretty convenient at times. But in this situation, avoiding every single monster like Ye Shu did relied primarily on experience and awareness. Raw skill was only secondary. Tang Rou, however, was nowhere near Ye Shu's level. They'd barely stepped into Sin City and already they'd stirred up a whole crowd of its residents. At first, Tang Rou was still focused on killing the targets, but after finishing one off, she saw the experience gain was so pitiful, it was a complete waste of time. So she decided it wasn't worth the effort. But in the face of Sin City's battle-hungry residents, you don't get to just decide you're done fighting. It's not that easy. Chen Guo watched from beside him for a moment. Seeing only how perilous Tang Rou's situation was, he desperately wished he could lend a hand, but couldn't. Frustrated, he immediately turned and grabbed for Ye Shu.
Hey, don't pull, don't pull.
Ye Shu was in the middle of a combo against the Christmas thief. How could he handle being yanked around like that? A single slip-up, and the Christmas thief seized the opening to slash back at him, using the momentum to slip free from Lord Grimm's relentless assault. This Christmas thief truly lived up to his name. A rogue by class, he had no intention of fleeing even after being spotted. But from the very first clash, Lord Grimm had him pinned in a relentless assault, denying him even a single chance to strike back. Seizing the opening, he rolled back and immediately began to circle, looking for an angle.
Hey,
Chen Guo saw it and immediately knew things had gone south. It's a classic thief tactic: move around, lay traps, and box your opponent in. This time, Glory's event designers gave the Christmas thieves something new. They actually programmed them with the same tactics and techniques that pro players have been using for years. This little monster is moving with such lifelike precision, it's as if a player is controlling it. This thief's trap build isn't a guaranteed win, but it's a real pain to deal with. Stepping on a trap by accident, getting blasted, poisoned, or snared, it's all incredibly frustrating. Many players lose to a thief not because of skill, but because of their own mindset. In this kind of playstyle, your mentality loses balance. You become impatient, mistakes multiply, and you're ultimately led to defeat. A personality like Chen Guo's, so easily riled up by a few words from Ye Shu, was clearly vulnerable to this kind of playstyle. If it were him up against a thief like that, he'd have no idea how many matches he'd lose. Seeing this, he'd accidentally put himself in the picture again. He immediately got worked up, feeling guilty for messing up Ye Shu's monster fight. But this was truly unnecessary worry. How could a little distraction like that possibly affect Ye Shu? After a brief loss of opportunity, the retreating Christmas thief had already dropped one trap. It sidestepped, preparing to lay a second, when 3 cannon shells arrived in rapid succession, fanning out to cover a wide horizontal angle. The Christmas thief had nowhere to hide, blasted square on. How could he possibly lay a trap now? At that very moment, Lord Grimm had already lunged forward. His myriad manifestations umbrella was in spear form once more. With a flick of Sky Strike, he sent the thief soaring into the air again.